President Trump mocks protesters with AI. 7-minute heist at the Louvre. Newborn found in Manhattan subway. I'm Pokras, and this is News Recap. It was a royal mess for President Trump this weekend, and not in a good way. Across the U.S., from Los Angeles to New York and even a few rallies overseas, millions hit the streets for the latest round of No Kings protests. Organizers say nearly 7 million people showed up at more than 2,700 events. That's 2 million more than the last June protests. Marchers packed the streets with music, speeches, homemade signs, and quite a few Halloween costumes. In D.C., Senators Bernie Sanders and Chris Murphy rallied the crowds, while Bill Nye, the science guy himself, called out the administration for ignoring basic science. Over in Chicago, Governor J.B. Pritzker told protesters that history will judge them by how they stand today. And while House Speaker Mike Johnson called the marches a Hate America rally, Senator Elizabeth Warren reminded Boston crowds that peacefully protesting a wannabe dictator is the ultimate act of patriotism. The protests were mostly peaceful. A few states, however, put the National Guard on standby just in case the inflatable dinosaurs got too rowdy. The White House brushed the protest off, with spokeswoman Abigail Jackson saying, "Who cares?" Well, looks like President Trump actually does care. How else do you explain him taking a break from golf to share a 19-second AI video on his Truth Social account? The clip shows him in a fighter jet labeled King Trump dropping what appears to be feces on the protesters. Trump has promoted dozens of AI videos mocking critics over the past 9 months. Many come from other accounts and are then shared by the president, including this fighter jet clip. Asked about the protests on Fox News, Trump insisted that he's not a king. Speaker Mike Johnson defended the video, calling it satire. A daring daylight heist at the Louvre shocked France and left authorities racing to recover priceless jewelry from Napoleon's era. On Sunday, a masked gang posing as construction workers used a truck with a crane ladder to reach a balcony, forced open a window, and smashed display cases. In just 7 minutes, they grabbed 9 items, including tiaras, necklaces, earrings, and other pieces with thousands of diamonds and rare sapphires. Experts say the goal wasn't art, but commodity theft, valuable gems and gold that can be sold or melted down. They even abandoned the crown of Empress Eugenie after being interrupted by guards. Some specialists question whether the thieves intended to recut the gems, noting stolen stones are often tracked and easily identifiable. The Louvre break-in has sparked questions about security, of course, but experts note museums always face a trade-off: protecting priceless items while staying accessible to the public. Authorities warn the jewelry could be lost forever if not recovered quickly. Israel, in the meantime, launched its heaviest attacks on Gaza since last week's fragile ceasefire. 2 Israeli soldiers were killed, and Israel temporarily halted humanitarian aid. Gaza health officials reported at least 23 Palestinian deaths on Sunday. President Trump said the ceasefire is still in place, but warned Hamas could face a fresh offensive if it doesn't follow the truce. Quote, "If we have to, they'll be eradicated." End of quote. Also adding that U.S. troops would not be involved, but other forces are ready. Israeli forces struck dozens of Hamas targets, including tunnels and armed groups near the ceasefire line. Hamas denied involvement and stated it remains committed to the truce. Some humanitarian aid crossings remain closed, and families on both sides are still struggling to locate missing loved ones. Trump's envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, traveled to Israel to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu. Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife are also expected to visit this week. Israel expects the remains of another hostage to be handed over by the Red Cross in southern Gaza Monday evening. So far, 12 sets of remains have been transferred, with 16 still believed to be in Gaza. The Secret Service found a suspicious hunting stand near Palm Beach International Airport. It had a clear view of where President Trump gets off Air Force One. The FBI is now investigating. No one was at the stand, and it did not affect the president's schedule. The stand is near where private planes park, including Trump's Air Force One, which usually actually doesn't park there, but has in the past because of construction. Trump flew to Florida on Friday and is spending the weekend in Mar-a-Lago. The president has faced several threats over the last 2 years. Last July, a man fired at him during a rally in Pennsylvania. We'll remember that. And in September, another man plotted to attack him while golfing in Florida. Both incidents were stopped by the Secret Service. Earlier this year, 2 other men were arrested for making threats against Trump online and trying to frame someone else. President Trump said on Monday the U.S. and Australia have made a deal on rare earth minerals, an issue that's been a source of tension with China. The $8.5 billion agreement starts with $1 billion from each country over 6 months. Rare earths are used in electronics, electric vehicles, and military equipment. The deal helps the U.S. get these important materials without relying on China. Australia, which has plenty of rare earth minerals and lithium, will supply the minerals and strengthen ties with the U.S. Trump called it a big step toward having plenty of critical minerals for America. Internet users around the world ran into problems on Monday morning after Amazon's cloud service went down. Popular apps and sites like Snapchat, Roblox, Fortnite, Signal, Robinhood, and even Amazon's own services stopped working. Ring cameras, Alexa devices, and Kindle downloads were also affected. The outage started around 3 a.m. Eastern Time and lasted about 3 hours. About 64 Amazon services were affected. Experts say this shows how much of the internet depends on just a few big cloud companies. When one has a problem, it can cause chaos for millions of users. Amazon said it was not a cyber attack, though. Engineers worked fast. By 6:30 a.m., most services were back online. The U.S. has stepped up its fight against drug traffickers in South America. On Friday, the military struck a boat in the Caribbean tied to a Colombian group carrying a large shipment of drugs. All 3 people on board were killed. This was the 7th strike in a series targeting drug smuggling vessels. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called the cartel the Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere and said the U.S. will treat them like terrorists. The Trump administration has also approved secret operations in Venezuela to stop drug smuggling. And in the meantime, President Trump on Sunday slammed Colombia, calling President Gustavo Petro a lunatic and the worst president, as he announced he's cutting all U.S. payments over the country's drug production. Trump said Colombia isn't fighting drug trafficking and warned new U.S. tariffs could be coming. In response, Colombia recalled its ambassador to Washington for consultations, signaling rising tensions between the 2 nations. Petro said some U.S. strikes on suspected drug traffickers killed Colombians and accused the U.S. of murder. The dispute highlights growing friction with one of America's top Latin American allies. Cuts in aid could hurt military cooperation and anti-drug efforts. Coca cultivation in Colombia hit record levels last year, and rural violence remains high. A jury has found a former New York prison guard guilty in the deadly beating of an inmate, Robert Brooks, last December, while acquitting 2 other guards. David Kingsley was convicted of second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter. He faces 25 years to life and is scheduled to be sentenced in December. Co-defendants Matthew Gallagher and Nicholas Kiefer were found not guilty. Brooks was beaten by multiple guards at Marcy Correctional Facility. Body camera footage showed him being punched, kicked, and restrained in the prison infirmary. He later died at a hospital. An autopsy confirmed his death was a homicide caused by blunt force injuries and neck compression. The jury reviewed dozens of pieces of evidence and heard from 12 prosecution witnesses. Defense attorneys argued their clients acted in the moment and did not intend to cause harm. This case is part of a wider investigation. 6 other guards have pleaded guilty to charges ranging from manslaughter to assault, with sentences from 2 to 22 years. Another guard is set to go on trial in January. The body camera footage was central to the case, showing parts of the attack that guards failed to actively record, capturing the fatal blows that killed Robert Brooks. A shocking discovery in Burleson, Texas. 26-year-old Jonathan Kinman, a special needs man, was found buried in a shallow grave at his parents' home. Police first checked on him on October 14th, but didn't find him. The next day, returning with the Texas Rangers, they recovered his body. Kinman's parents, December and Jonathan Mitchell, have been arrested and charged with tampering with a human corpse. They are each being held on $250,000 bond. Authorities are still investigating the cause of death, and more charges could follow. Police say the community was never in danger, which is why the case wasn't made public sooner. Human remains of missing 23-year-old Kada Scott were found on Saturday behind a former middle school in East Germantown, Philadelphia. DNA confirmed they belong to her. Scott disappeared on October 4th after arriving for her overnight shift at a senior living facility. Her car was left in the parking lot without her phone, keys, or other belongings. Investigators traced her disappearance to 21-year-old Keon King. He's now charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, stalking, and several other crimes, including tampering with evidence. Authorities say new video shows King using a stolen car to move Scott to the school, and additional charges, including arson and conspiracy, are expected. King had prior kidnapping allegations from earlier this year, which were reopened after Scott's case. District Attorney Larry Krasner said new evidence from the investigation will lead to more charges. Scott's family thanked the public for support and asked for privacy. A newborn girl was found wrapped in a blanket at a subway station in Manhattan on Monday morning. The baby was discovered just before 9:30 a.m. on a staircase to a train platform at West 34th Street and 7th Avenue. Authorities say an anonymous tip led the NYPD and fire personnel to the scene. The infant was conscious and alert on the way to the hospital. She was admitted in stable condition. New York City Transit President called it a miracle on 34th Street. He thanked the police for their quick response and care for the baby. The investigation is ongoing. And that's all for now. The top stories of the day, no fluff and straight to the point. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment. I'm Kat Pokras, and I'll see you next time.